The war had stretched the alien queen's empire to its breaking point. Her forces, once unstoppable, were now bogged down in brutal skirmishes across multiple fronts. Time was running out. The queen summoned her most trusted general and commanded with a voice like thunder, "Bring back an army, a massive one, to crush the rebellion and restore her dominance." Failure was not an option. The general, seasoned and proud, immediately set off on his mission. He scoured the galaxy, visiting worlds that teemed with soldiers ready for battle. But everywhere he looked, the troops lacked the fire, the tenacity, the unyielding spirit the queen demanded. They fought, yes, but without the ruthless precision or raw hunger for victory she expected. Many of these species were physically strong, but their tactics were stale, their warriors bound by predictability and rigid hierarchy. Days turned into weeks. Entire star systems offered their fighters, but none impressed. The general's frustration grew. Returning empty-handed meant death, but returning with an army that would fail was no better. He needed something different, something unexpected. On the outskirts of the Empire, a small, unremarkable planet sat forgotten. It wasn't on any official star charts, its name barely whispered in the annals of galactic lore. The general scouts reported a lone figure, a human, living in this backwater world. Humans were considered weak, fragile, and irrelevant by the Empire's standards. They lacked the raw physical power of most species, and had no organized military to speak of. To the general, they were a curiosity at best, a joke at worst, but desperation bred recklessness. The general dispatched his ship to retrieve this human. When they found him, the man was alone, unarmed, and seemingly ordinary. His planet was primitive compared to the sprawling star empires, with simple technology and harsh environments that seemed barely tamed. The general expected resistance or fear, but the human stood tall, eyes steady, voice calm when addressed. No trembling, no begging. A strange confidence radiated from him, something the general could not place. He scoffed inwardly. What use was a single human? The queen wanted an army, and this was the closest thing he could deliver. Returning to the throne world, the general presented the human before the queen's glittering court. The hall was filled with towering alien nobles, their eyes filled with disdain and amusement. A single human. This was the general's offering? The queen's anger flared instantly. How could her best general bring back one puny creature instead of legions of soldiers? She demanded answers, her voice sharp and unforgiving. The general explained his failure to recruit an army worthy of her command, and pleaded for a chance to prove this human's value. The queen sneered but agreed to a test. She ordered the human to demonstrate his worth. The court gathered to witness what was sure to be a humiliating failure. They expected the human to falter, to crumble under pressure like all others before him. The first trial was physical, a test of strength and endurance. The human had no armor, no advanced weaponry, but he moved with surprising speed and agility. His muscles were lean, his reflexes sharp. He dodged and weaved through obstacles designed to crush or trap. The crowd murmured in disbelief. How could one so small move with such precision? Next came the mental trial, puzzles and strategy games designed to challenge intellect and adaptability. The human studied each task carefully, approaching problems with a combination of logic, intuition, and creativity that the rigid alien minds lacked. He saw patterns others missed and devised solutions that bent rules instead of breaking them. Alien observers whispered in confusion and awe. The final challenge was a simulation of combat leadership. The human was given command of a small squad of alien soldiers in a virtual battlefield. His orders were unconventional, unpredictable. Instead of brute force, he used deception, surprise, and flexibility. His squad outmaneuvered the virtual enemy repeatedly, earning grudging respect from even the most skeptical generals watching. Through each test, the human's confidence never wavered. He showed no arrogance, but a quiet certainty that unsettled the court. The queen's fury shifted slowly to curiosity. How could this single, unarmed creature outperform trained soldiers and seasoned commanders? Whispers spread among the nobles. Some scoffed, clinging to their old prejudices. Others felt a strange pull of respect for this human, who refused to be diminished by his size or origins. The general stood silently, realizing he had brought back something far more valuable than mere numbers. The human was a wild card, unpredictable and relentless, qualities the Empire desperately needed. The Queen ordered the human to remain in her court, to be studied and tested further. She would decide soon if this strange being was a failure to be discarded or a secret weapon to be wielded in the Empire's darkest hour. The human, for his part, said little. His mind raced with possibilities. He understood the danger, but also the opportunity. He was no soldier by training, no conqueror by birth. But what he lacked in conventional power, he made up for in something that would soon change the fate of the Empire: the human spirit. The alien court buzzed with tension. One human against an empire seemed ludicrous. Yet, the seeds of doubt were planted. Maybe, just maybe, this human was worth more than the army the Queen demanded. And so the story began, not with legions marching, but with a single human standing firm, ready to prove that sometimes one was enough. The Queen's throne room was filled with cold light and sharper words when the general returned with only one human in tow. The courtiers sneered openly, their voices dripping with contempt as they whispered about the general's failure. The Queen's glare burned through the chamber, eyes blazing with fury. "You bring me a single creature? A human? What mockery is this?" she demanded, voice echoing off the polished walls. The general bowed his head, but dared not hide the glint of determination in his eyes. "Your Majesty, this human is unlike any other being we have encountered. I ask only for a chance to prove his worth." The Queen scoffed. "Very well. Let this one creature undergo trials. If he fails, he dies. If he succeeds, perhaps there is use for him." The human stood silently, unflinching beneath the alien gazes. No chains bound him, no signs of fear clouded his expression. The court expected a pitiful display of weakness and submission, but instead, they saw calm resolve. The first trial was a physical demonstration. The human was placed in a chamber filled with intricate traps and heavy obstacles designed to test strength, endurance, and agility. Alien warriors, known for their brute force, often faltered here. The human, however, moved with uncanny precision. He vaulted over spikes, slipped through narrow crevices, and pushed himself to exhaustion without faltering. His muscles burned, but his spirit remained unbroken. The court watched in stunned silence as the human completed the course faster than many seasoned soldiers. Next came the test of intellect. The Queen's advisors presented puzzles and complex strategic scenarios designed to ensnare even the sharpest minds. The human examined each problem methodically, applying logic and creativity in equal measure. While alien minds were trained to follow rigid protocols, the human adapted fluidly, seeing solutions where others saw dead ends. His ability to think outside conventional constraints left the alien council uneasy, some whispering that this was no ordinary mind. The final and most crucial test was leadership in simulated combat. The human was given command of a small contingent of alien soldiers in a holographic battlefield. The Queen's generals watched expectantly, sure that this single human would fail to coordinate even a handful of troops effectively. But what happened next was unexpected. The human refused to lead with traditional tactics. Instead, he employed deception, surprise, and unconventional maneuvers that baffled both enemy and observer alike. His squad adapted quickly, executing orders with precision and confidence. Where alien commanders relied on overwhelming force, he exploited weaknesses, turning apparent disadvantages into victories. The simulation ended with the human's forces victorious, and barely a scratch on his troops. Murmurs spread throughout the court. The human's confidence, calm under pressure, and innovative thinking challenged every preconception they held. Alien nobles who had mocked him now exchanged uneasy glances. The Queen herself remained silent for a moment, her sharp gaze never leaving the human. Some members of the court began questioning their long-held assumptions about humanity. How could one being, unarmed and unarmored, outperform armies and commanders trained for centuries? Others resisted, clinging to the arrogance bred by their empire's size and power. But no one could deny the undeniable. The human was special. The Queen finally spoke, her voice low and controlled. "You have shown promise, human, but promise alone will not save an empire. You will remain under my command. Prove that you can lead not just yourself, but others. Only then will you earn your place." The human nodded, a quiet fire burning in his eyes. The court, once filled with scorn, now buzzed with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. A single human had already begun to change the tides of opinion within the heart of the empire. The general observed all this with a growing sense of respect and hope. He had expected to return empty-handed or with a worthless captive. Instead, he brought back a force unlike any other, not an army of many, but the strength of one. The Queen's demand for an army remained, but the definition of army was about to be rewritten. The humans' trials had shattered the illusion that power came from numbers alone. This was only the beginning. The Empire's future would be shaped by this unlikely figure, a single human whose courage and ingenuity defied the vastness of space and the arrogance of alien empires. And in that quiet confidence, the humans silently vowed to show the galaxy why humans were never meant to be underestimated. The human did not arrive with legions, but what he brought soon proved to be an entirely different kind of force. Rather than commanding soldiers with threats or strict orders, he began transforming the alien troops from within. The Queen's generals watched skeptically as he approached their hardened warriors, not with weapons, but with ideas. At first, the alien soldiers resisted. They had been trained for generations in rigid formations, predictable tactics, and brute strength. The human challenged everything they believed about warfare. He introduced flexibility where there was none, encouraging soldiers to think independently and adapt on the fly. His methods seemed reckless, chaotic even, but results quickly silenced critics. The human taught the alien soldiers to abandon their reliance on overwhelming numbers and heavy weaponry. Instead, he emphasized speed, surprise, and deception. Ambushes replaced frontal assaults. Small, agile squads replaced lumbering battalions. Where alien armies planned every move with cold precision, he taught them to expect the unexpected. Within weeks, the transformation was undeniable. Soldiers who had been sluggish and hesitant now moved with confidence and purpose. They learned to anticipate enemy tactics and exploit weaknesses no one had noticed before. Their mindset shifted from blind obedience to empowered initiative. The human's influence spread beyond the battlefield tactics. He encouraged camaraderie, forging bonds among troops that transcended their species' differences. The soldiers began to fight not just out of duty, but out of loyalty to each other and belief in their cause. This was a concept unfamiliar and unsettling to the Empire's hierarchy. The Queen, initially dismissive of these changes, found herself intrigued. She observed from her throne as alien soldiers returned victorious from training simulations she had deemed impossible. The general's reports confirmed it. The human was building something unique, something the Empire had never seen, an army inspired by human ingenuity and spirit. Not everyone embraced this evolution. Several high-ranking commanders viewed the humans' methods as dangerous and unpredictable. They whispered about rebellion, questioning whether the alien forces could remain loyal under such unorthodox leadership. Some feared that empowering soldiers to think for themselves could fracture the rigid control the Empire relied on. But the Queen silenced dissent. The victories spoke for themselves. The humans' army, though small in number, wielded power far beyond expectation. Their unpredictability frustrated the enemy and sowed chaos in opposing ranks. They became a living weapon, fast, adaptable, and relentless. When the moment of truth arrived, the human led his newly trained troops into battle. The enemy expected an easy victory against what they assumed was a half-hearted force. Instead, they met a storm of rapid maneuvers, clever traps, and fierce determination. The humans' forces struck from unexpected angles, exploited every weakness, and refused to be pinned down. The battle was decisive. The enemy's ranks shattered, their morale broken. What the Queen had demanded, an army capable of overwhelming the opposition, was delivered, but not as anyone had imagined. It was not sheer numbers or brute force that won the day, but human creativity and unyielding spirit. In the aftermath, the Queen summoned the human before her once more. Her cold expression softened and respect flickered in her eyes. "You have done what I thought impossible. You have created an army not from legions, but from a single idea, humanity itself. The general bowed deeply, pride swelling within him. He had brought the queen more than just a soldier. He had brought a revolution. The human stood tall, not as a conqueror, but as a symbol. He understood that victory was not about domination, but about inspiring others to rise beyond their limits. Across the empire, the ripples of this change spread. The alien forces began adopting human strategies, challenging centuries of tradition. The Queen's empire grew stronger, not because it controlled more worlds, but because it embraced the unpredictable power of the human mind and spirit. What had started as a desperate gamble had become a turning point. One human had reshaped the fate of millions, and in that transformation lay the undeniable truth of humanity, that sometimes one was enough. The battle's aftermath echoed across the empire, a victory so complete that none could deny its significance. The alien armies, once sluggish and predictable, now moved with the unpredictable energy of human-inspired tactics. The Queen, standing atop her throne, finally acknowledged what many had begun to suspect. This single human was not just a soldier or a leader. He was a catalyst for change that could not be ignored. She publicly declared the human a symbol of power and resilience, honoring him with titles no one could have imagined for a creature so small and solitary. The courtiers who had mocked him were silenced, replaced by whispers of awe and reluctant admiration. The Queen's empire, shaken by conflict and strained by hubris, found new hope in the one they once dismissed. The human, standing before the vast crowd of alien dignitaries, spoke quietly but with conviction. He did not boast of strength or conquest. Instead, he explained what had driven humanity to survive countless threats and harsh worlds. It was not their weapons or numbers that made them formidable. It was their unity, their ability to adapt, and above all, their fierce will to endure. He described how humans learned to use unpredictability as their greatest weapon, turning apparent weakness into strength by embracing change and uncertainty. This was the core lesson he had brought to the alien armies, and it was a spirit that had carried them to victory. The Queen listened, her expression thoughtful. For centuries, the empire had relied on rigid hierarchies and overwhelming force. Now, confronted by human resilience and ingenuity, she realized that survival depended on embracing new ideas and abandoning old arrogance. The alien leaders began to shift their perceptions. Alliances formed where suspicion once ruled. Plans were made not just to conquer, but to learn from humanity's unique qualities. The empire opened its doors to new strategies and cooperation, setting aside centuries of prejudice. The human's legacy extended beyond the battlefield. His presence sparked a transformation in the very fabric of the empire, a shift from domination through sheer power to survival through adaptability and heart. His story spread, inspiring other worlds and species to reconsider what strength truly meant. And through it all, the human remained grounded. He understood that victory was never guaranteed, and that the fight for survival was ongoing. But he also knew that humans had something no empire could replicate, a spirit forged through hardship, hope, and relentless courage. The empire had demanded an army. Instead, it had received one human, and through him, a force more powerful than any legion. In that truth lay the heart of HFY. Humans, underestimated and outnumbered, stood tall not because of their might, but because of their unbreakable will and the boundless potential of their spirit. The Queen's empire would never be the same again, and the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Never count out a human, because sometimes one is more than enough.